In the dead of night, the phone call came. Trembling voice, barely audible. "You need to see this, before it's gone." Within 10 seconds, the room went cold. The streetlights outside flickered, and a secret buried deep for decades threatened to surface. That was the moment when the perfect crime, the crime so flawless, it almost vanished into thin air, began to unravel. Picture this. A quiet, small town. Warm summer evening. The faint hum of cicadas in the Arenden. Nothing. No screams, no struggle, no trace. Only silence, until someone dared to listen. The town of Ridgewood had always seemed peaceful. Manicured lawns, picket fences, children riding bikes, neighbors greeting each other at dusk. In 1997, 3 people lived in the modest Victorian on Maple Street. Elena Morrison, a soft-spoken librarian in her late 30s. Tom Reed, a freelance photographer with a roving lifestyle but who claimed Ridgewood as home. And Elena's elderly mother, Agnes Morrison, frail but sharp of mind, living quietly in a rear wing of the house. The date was July 14th, 1997. The house stood silent, bathed in the golden glow of porch lights, windows curtained. The final night they were all together felt utterly ordinary except for the eerily meticulous absence of alarm. No pry marks on doors, no shattered glass. Nothing stolen except memories. Early the next morning, the mailman found the front door ajar. Inside, there was no sign of life. The newspapers from the previous evening still lay unread. The dinner tables still had uneaten plates. The beds were undisturbed, but the 3 residents had vanished. First responders found no sign of forced entry. Their back door, always kept locked, showed no indication of being tampered with. There were no footprints in the garden, no drag marks, no blood, not a single fingerprint except for the ones already belonging to the house's occupants. And oddest of all, the house was unusually clean. Not one drop of blood. No glasses upturned. No signs of panic. It was as if everyone just walked out, but with no destination given. The neighbors, interviewed later, reported nothing unusual. No strangers, no cars parked outside, no headlights. Not a single whisper of trouble. Yet something deeper lurked. Inside Elena's bedroom, the investigators found a single Polaroid picture, taken that very night, lying face down on her pillow. On the photo, 3 shadows stood side by side, backs turned toward the camera, details blurred by grainy light, the location unknown, the faces hidden. On the back, faint pencil scrawls read, "Tomorrow." That cryptic message would become the heart of the mystery. Who took the photograph? Why was it left behind? And what did tomorrow mean? The initial investigation by the Ridgewood Police Department proceeded slowly, with no signs of struggle, no missing person reports filed by outside friends or relatives, and no ransom demand. The case languished. It was officially recorded as a missing persons case, but quietly shelved within the cold files of unsolved mysteries. There were small leads. A few locals remembered a black sedan parked near Maple Street the week before, but nobody could confirm its occupants. A solitary tip, anonymous, claimed to have seen a moving truck hauling old furniture away in the pre-dawn hours of July 5th. When officers canvassed the area, they found nothing. No record of a rental truck, no license plate, no driver. As months turned into years, the case faded. The house was boarded up, the garden overgrown, the name Maurice and Reed quietly removed from the town directory. Then, decades later, in 2021, a young urban explorer, curious, bored, and hungry for discovery, forced open a basement window beneath the house's boarded exterior. Inside, under layers of dust and decay, she discovered a locked cellar door. Inside that cellar, behind a false wall, she found a miniature sculpture, 3 tiny figures carved in wood, each about 10 centimeters tall, standing shoulder to shoulder, facing a small engraved plaque that read, "They went where light dies." Next to them lay a single, decaying Polaroid. The very same image found on Elena's pillow, but this time slightly torn and aged, the moment those tiny carved figures were touched. The old crime whispered again. Not lost, not forgotten, just hidden. When the young explorer posted her findings online, the cold case reopened. A special task force assembled. Investigators dusted the cellar for prints. Still none, except for the explorers. They scanned for DNA. They revisited the original Polaroid, performed forensic enhancement. Under ultraviolet light and modern imaging, they discovered a faint watermark in the corner. August Photo Labs, 7/14/97. Ridgewood Processing Center. That matched the date of disappearance. But the official record showed no takers for photo development that day. The logbooks had been shredded. Whoever developed and possibly took that Polaroid had covered their tracks. Detectives realized they had stumbled into a carefully orchestrated blind spot. The lack of overt violence had prevented a crime scene. The message tomorrow likely referred to some date or event known only to the conspirators. The carved figures, so small, so precise, had been hidden behind a false wall, crafted by someone with time and skill. And the timing of the black sedan, the moving truck, the absence of noise, all synchronized as if choreographed. A crime committed with patience, precision, and an unerring sense of stealth. The investigation uncovered that in the months before July 1997, Elena had reportedly inherited a sizable sum after her father's death. A dormant trust fund suddenly unlocked, just under $300,000, enough to raise eyebrows among the town's quiet elite. Her mother, Agnes, had access to the same. Detectives theorized that someone close to them, someone with trust and access to the house, had planned this for months, waiting to strike when alone. But ironically, that trust and access cleaned away every clue. The absence of violence meant no blood, no DNA, no fiber. Only old wood, dust, and silence. As the lead detectives stared at the carved figures under the dim light of the lab, a micrometer measured their features. Each figure bore subtle differences. One slightly taller, one with broader shoulders, one smaller as if representing three distinct people. But who? Could it be Elena, Tom, Agnes, or someone else entirely? And why carve them? A twisted trophy, a warning, a confession hidden in plain sight. The plaque teased them. They went where light dies. A chilling phrase. Did that refer to an underground bunker, a deep basement, or a deep lake under cover of darkness? No bodies were ever discovered, no trace at all. Search parties scoured local lakes, rivers, wooded hills, drainage tunnels, old abandoned mines, dozens of miles around town. Nothing. Not a single fragment of bone, not a tattered piece of clothing. T-only lead. Tet Polaroid. Enhanced, magnified, scrutinized. The shadows in the photo revealed outlines of three figures, with their right hands raised, as if waving goodbye. The lighting suggested early morning, weak street light at their backs. Could it have been just before departure? Or a staged scene? A final impression before the vanish. The turning point came when investigators compared handwriting, the pencil inscription, "Tomorrow" on the back of the Polaroid, to a dusty ledger found inside the boarded-up house. A ledger belonging to the late owner, Elena's father. In that ledger were numbers, dates, names, but most importantly, one name repeated. Mr. with a size 8 shoe drawn next to it. Shoe next to initials. Detectives dusted the ledger for fingerprints and found none. But when they compared the shape of the numbers to a sample from a local man, the only man in town with size 8 feet, they saw uncanny similarity. That man. Quiet, well-respected. The owner of a small repair shop, always fixing neighbors' tools, always present but never noticed. He had access. He'd done odd jobs at the Victorian house, repaired that cellar door, done plumbing for Agnes, replaced a broken window once under the pretense of routine maintenance. Confronted with the evidence, he denied everything, said he never carved any figures. He never touched the ledger. He never met Elena, beyond a friendly greeting. Yet the more the investigators pressed, the more his behavior froze. He had no alibi. He claimed to have been sleeping that night. No one could confirm. His truck was sold within days of the disappearance. The buyer vanished. Buyer records traced to a mailbox in another town, no driver logs. No name. Vanished as cleanly as the occupants of the house. Experts concluded The crime had been planned for months, executed in silence, with trust as the weapon. The killers used proximity, routine, and authority to slip inside unnoticed. The cellar's false wall was perhaps built weeks before, plastered over, painted to match. The moving truck disguised the removal of furniture, or perhaps the demolition of the false wall as debris. The black sedan spotted earlier. A decoy. A scare. A red herring to distract any watchful eye. In short, a masterpiece of disappearance. The case went to court in 2023 after a breakthrough witness. The urban explorer bravely came forward and testified. She described the cellar, the false wall, the carved figures, the decaying Polaroid. Her testimony reopened old leads, but when they tried to dig deeper, the key suspect had vanished, no trace. The case collapsed under lack of conclusive physical evidence. No bodies, no DNA, no weapon, no murder, confession. The defense argued there was no proof anyone died. The prosecution had motive, access, and opportunity, but not the smoking gun. The jury, after days of deliberation, returned a verdict. Not guilty. The town of Ridgewood breathed again, but only on the surface. For behind closed doors, whispers persisted. Some believed the truth died with the victims. Others believed killer walked free, perhaps planning a second strike. The house on Maple Street remained boarded. The carved statues were locked away in the police evidence vault. The Polaroid, now restored, locked in a glass case at the county museum labeled Unsolved Mysteries. 2 was posed at the landing nearest the cellar, guides whispering stories of vanished lives and perfect crimes. Yet certain questions linger. Who developed that Polaroid, and why leave it on the pillow, only to return decades later to hide carved replicas behind a wall? Why carve the victims rather than dispose of them completely? Was it guilt, pride, or a twisted message? And most disturbingly, if someone so careful, so precise, so silent, managed to make 3 people vanish without a trace, could they strike again? Tonight, as you listen in darkness, imagine walking past that boarded Victorian on Maple Street, hearing only the creak of floorboards behind a sealed door. Imagine 3 lives snuffed out or spirited away so cleanly that the world accepted their disappearance as a quiet mystery. Goosebumps crawl. The silence becomes loud, and you realize sometimes the perfect crime isn't about force or violence. It is about trust, routine, patience, and invisibility. What do you think happened that night? Who carved those figures? And where are the 3 shadows from the Polaroid now? Could the truth still be buried in some forgotten basement, waiting for one more curious soul to listen? If you want more chillin' mysteries like this, smash that subscribe button and dive into the darkness with us. Until next time, sleep well.